Welcome back guys to the new best Sandevistan build you have ever played in Cyberpunk 2.0 and maybe even before. This build is so sick that you will actually feel like you have never installed patch 2.0. It will be 100% melee, 100% crit chance, and you can one-shot everybody with it. Elite enemies will simply cease to exist and you will slash your way through the entire game without even getting a single scratch. And since infinite Sandevistan with no cooldown is extremely great also for close range weapons such as shotguns, I've just added a shotgun as a backup in case you get bored from using your blade. With this build you will be dancing around your enemies like you have ever done it in patch 1.6 and even before. The game and the developers will no longer dictate you how to play this game, you will be just as OP as you have always ever been. And of course all the footage in all my videos for Cyberpunk are recorded on very hard difficulty. And can it beat Maxtac on very hard? Yes, it totally beats and pummels them and slashes their heads off. In order to get infinite Sandevistan without any cooldown, you have to use the Apogee Militech Sandevistan, which has a hefty requirement of 44 capacity, but it is totally worth it. It has 8-second base duration, but you can add another 2 seconds and multiply this with the warranty extension, so you get 11.5 seconds in total for the duration. And it has the absolute fastest cooldown with only 25 seconds. To get this down to 25 seconds, you have to upgrade this item to tier 5+. The special trait of this Sandevistan is that it extends the duration of it by 20% for every kill you make with it. And for some very weird reason it actually also removes the entire 25 seconds cooldown when you just kill enough enemies. You can actually see the ability in action. When we kill enough enemies it just gets bumped up to the top and we can use it forever basically when doing this. But instead after exactly 11.5 seconds duration it didn't extend it, but instead it removed the entire cooldown. Only 3 finishers or instant kills will entirely remove the whole cooldown. And even if you didn't kill as many enemies, you will have only a 4 to 6 seconds cooldown left for your Sandevistan, which is still insanely great and just the same as in patch 1.6 or earlier versions. Even if shotguns can't do the finishers, it will still slash your cooldown in half when using shotguns. Of course you can also use any other weapon type to achieve the same, but what makes it so triggering to use shotguns is the new Pyromaniac glitch. When you use the micro generator in your armed cyberware, you will actually release an electroshock every time you reload an empty weapon. And since the sovereign is always empty and you have to reload it every time you shoot it, you will also every time release the electroshock, literally doubling your damage when using the sovereign. And these electroshocks also count as explosions, giving you additional stacks of Pyromaniac, which is just crazy and just amplifies your damage even further. And the best of it is that you will also get an insane amount of engineering XP for it. In order to utilize all the crazy stuff in this build, you have to use one specific ability, which is Flash and Thunderclap. This ability is simply the best ability you can use together with your blade. You only have to hold your heavy attack and release it in the direction of your enemies. Then you will automatically leap forward and either kill them directly or you can perform a finisher directly after. With this ability you will get enough kills and enough finishers to completely reset the cooldown of your Sandevistan. Or you play with a more relaxing approach by activating your Sandevistan using your shotgun and simply blasting some heads off. But now let's finally check out the build, guys. By the way, if you want to support me creating more of these crazy builds, you can also consider to become a Patreon or YouTube member and check out our Discord server. The best katana after patch 2.0 by far in the game is now the Scalpel, because the Scalpel is the only katana that has still its original bonus of giving you 50% crit chance whenever you activate Sandevistan. And when you can activate Sandevistan literally forever or insanely often, this weapon gets extremely OP. Together with all the other stat modifiers, we are at 100% crit chance every time we have Sandevistan active. The second best option for a more relaxed approach is the Sovereign. The Sovereign has already been the best shotgun and now it definitely still is the best shotgun because of the insane reload mechanics that can add electroshocks and even stacks of Pyromaniac. Especially during Sandevistan you will have enough time to reload this weapon and kill everyone before they even hit you. On top of that it gives you guaranteed crits on close range, and we all love guaranteed crits. There's really nothing more to say about it, just get this weapon and use it. You can of course also add the Pride as a backup, but in this setting for this build it is probably only the third best weapon to use. The Pride will have over 400% headshot damage to elites and high threat enemies, but this value is only shown during combat. I would again recommend to equip a Kanatsugo optics and an XC10 Strix silencer to it. Then of course we have the insane apogee Sandevistan in our Cyberware slot. Including all the buffs, you will have over 11.5 seconds duration, and with the crazy mechanic of killing enemies, which is kind of broken, you can bring it down to a 0-second cooldown. It's definitely worth the 44 capacity. It is just as strong as all the Sandevistans in patch 1.6 or earlier. In the other slot we will place the micro generator, which will create the electroshocks every time we shoot our shotgun. It will deal 280 electro damage additionally to the 230 damage of the shotgun itself, literally doubling the shotgun damage, and it also adds stacks of Pyromaniac every time we shoot it, which is just insanely crazy because Pyromaniac will also give you more mitigation, so that stacks up pretty fast. For the Cyberware, again we will use the Edge Runners perks that gives us more capacity to the expense of our health. However, if you have more capacity already, then you probably don't necessarily need it, but if you just started with an existing level 50 character, then you probably have to use it in order to fit the apogee in your build. We also don't put anything in our frontal cortex and nothing in our arms, because the scalpel is way better than the Mantis blades anyway. We will use the skeleton to get as much armor as we can, and also Parabellum, which not only gives us a lot of armor, but also a percentage bonus on our armor, which will also be over 200 in total. To increase our melee damage, we will get Dance Marrow for an additional 27% melee damage, and if you are lucky, you can even roll more melee damage on it. In the nervous system, we will go for the Reflex Tuner just as a backup, in case you just run out of Sandevistan, you still have this safety net, and we'll also grab the Stabber for an additional 18% crit chance with all our melee weapons. And of course, if you can, try to roll more melee damage on all of these items. I also recommend you to get the Pain Editor to reduce all incoming damage by over 7%. There are also additional more powerful options here, but since we run out of capacity, I would just recommend you to get the Armor, which only costs you 4 capacity for an additional 50 armor in total, which is a really great capacity versus armor rating. In the operating system slot, we will put the Militech Apogee Sandevistan, which is by far the best Sandevistan in the game. Forget about playing Berserk with melee. Sandevistan is the way to play this game in Cyberpunk 2.0, Phantom Liberty and forward. For the eye slot, just pick up the cheapest you can get. 1 capacity is more than enough, you don't need anything else. In the hand slot, of course, we'll put the micro generator, which gives us the additional electroshock damage every time we fire our weapons. I definitely recommend you to get it and put it in any build you make, because it also adds the stacks of Pyromaniac. It just works best with the Sovereign because you reload it so often. Of course, especially on very hard, things can quickly go wrong, so I definitely recommend you to get the second heart, which simply resurrects you whenever you die. Biomonitor will essentially do the same, so it basically acts as a safety net before second heart kicks in. Biomonitor also acts as a normal health refill, so it also triggers your adrenaline, and I would definitely recommend it to use it over blood pump. Then of course get the heal on kill, which is just insane when you kill so many enemies. And last but not least, get the usual tendons for the double jump. By the way, if you don't really use your double jump so often, you can of course also save a bit of capacity, but I don't really recommend it. For the additional stats, I recommend you to try to roll more melee damage, more health and more health refill. For the skills, I'm back to my glorious holy triple of 20 body, 20 reflex, 20 tech, which just looks to be extremely OP in Phantom Liberty and Cyberpunk 2.0. I've put 1 point into cool so far, but I'm planning to spend more points into cool probably later when I play Phantom Liberty. The good thing is that the Pride has automatic crits, so it doesn't necessarily need the cool tree for being OP. Let's first check out the reflex tree, because I think that is most important. The best ability for blades and for playing melee is Flash and Thunderclap. You basically only have to press your heavy attack, release it, and the game will play by itself. Every time you either instantly kill your enemy, or you can immediately perform a finisher after it, because they are so low on health. Everything else is basically just complementary. We will get Slippery to decrease our chance of getting hit, Parkour for increasing the climbing speed. I don't really use any of the dash abilities, but they are actually needed to get the Thunderclap. Same on the other side, we will barely do any counterattacks because we one-shot everyone, but it's needed as a requirement. However, the bullet reflection is quite nice and it can really help you if there are a lot of people shooting at you. Very important are the finishers, because the finishers increase the amount of cooldown you get for your Sandevistan. So you have to increase the range as much as you can, and also the eligibility that you can do them. With this setup, and if your enemies don't die after a Thunderclap, you can immediately perform the finisher after every Thunderclap. I don't really think that you need Slaughterhouse to perform all these attacks, but as we are maxing out the reflex tree anyway, we will go all in on the blades tree. In the body tree, of course, we'll get all the usual stuff here at the bottom, all the health refill and mitigation, and then we'll go for Adrenaline Rush, which basically acts as a shield above your health. This is activated every time you use a health booster or even when Biomonitor kicks in, because Biomonitor basically also uses a health refill. You don't really need to use Blood Pump with it. During Adrenaline Rush you will have no movement penalties, you will get increased movement speed and will also get Calm Mind to delay the adrenaline decay. You can add more adrenaline and increase the protecting shield by using more health boosters, and your health boosters will literally be always available thanks to the finisher perk, because the finisher perk will reduce the cooldown of all your health boosters every time you kill an enemy, and you will kill lots of enemies by using Sandevistan and your blade. If you want to use the Sovereign as shown in this build, then you should put a couple of points into the shotgun tree. Like a Feather will remove all the movement penalties, and Don't Stop Me Now will increase the mitigation and mitigation strength. And of course reducing the bullet spread is also always nice. Spontaneous Obliteration is actually really cool, and it might actually affect the amount of cooldown you get for your Sandevistan. My current theory is that anything that dismembers or brutally kills your enemies has a higher impact on your cooldowns, so I would definitely recommend to get it. Of course more armor and reload speed is always good, and Bloodlust gives you more adrenaline for every dismemberment, which is a really cool synergy effect. In the tech tree, of course, we'll get the usual Cyberware candidates, all things Cyber, licensed to Chrome, and even the Edge Runners perk. Use it as long as you're having a low capacity, because if you don't use all the slots, then you can remove some of these perks I used here. But at the end, if you want to fill out and max out your Cyberware, it should basically look like this. When you've rolled all the stats on your items, you can also remove the driver update and the shipware connoisseur. To activate Pyromaniac, we have to use the left side tree, so we go for Gotten for War, Health Freak, and then the third perk will be Pyromaniac. This is especially great because it activates with the electroshock that is triggered by your Sovereign shotgun. You will get a lot of stacks of Pyromaniac very easy and very fast, even without ever using any grenade. Heat Shield also increases the mitigation chance, so you will really become an unkillable monster. You can of course also pick up further health regeneration perks and boosters further down in the tree if you like. I've only invested a single point in the cool tree to only get more movement speed and an increased mitigation chance. But I'm quite fine with that because I'm focused way more on blades and shotguns with this build. The Pride will also still work without even using the cool tree, so I'm totally fine with that. Putting any point into intelligence is probably a total waste in this build, so I won't even do that. I hope you really liked this build. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.